You see it everywhere. Men putting in 12-hour days, pushing their bodies to the absolute limit, believing that if they only bleed enough into their work, the payoff is guaranteed. But look at the math. The people pulling the longest shifts and trading the most physical sweat are almost always the ones earning the least. Hard work, on its own, is a terrible predictor of wealth. Machiavelli recognized this 5 centuries ago. He saw men trapped in the cycle of moving without direction, mistaking pure, exhausting activity for actual advancement. Breaking this cycle requires the first strategic realignment, the inversion of identity. Most people follow a flawed sequence. They think if they finally have the money, they can do the right things, and eventually they will be someone of power. Reality operates in reverse. Creation precedes possession. You cannot act your way into becoming someone you are not. The rewards you want can only be sustained if you first build an internal identity capable of holding them. This process is quiet. When you begin changing who you are, the world usually gives you nothing back. No money, no applause, just a long stretch of silence where your new actions produce 0 visible results. That gap is where most people quit. They want the rewards of the person they haven't yet become. Real wealth is delayed compensation for personal growth, and if you only chase immediate feedback, you lose the chance to forge the identity that real power requires. Once your identity is set, you have to face the second strategic realignment, the value ladder. The market does not reward effort, it rewards value, and that value exists in 4 distinct, strictly tiered levels. This diagram maps the structural reality of income. At the base is execution. This is trading your physical time and energy to get tasks done. It is necessary work, but the payoff is mathematically capped by the hours in a day and the limits of your own body. Moving up to coordination changes the math. Here, you organize people and systems. The market pays more for strategic decisions than it does for physical output, which is why the person directing the work earns more than the person doing it. The third level is communication. At this tier, you move people with ideas, negotiation, and influence. A single conversation in a boardroom can create more value in an hour than hundreds of people can produce physically in a year. At the very top is imagination. This is the domain of rulers. You build the environment, write the rules, and design the platforms that everyone else operates inside. Hoping that sheer effort will compensate for your position on the ladder is a trap. To gain financial power, you must deliberately leap to a higher level of value. Moving up that ladder requires a different set of internal mechanics. That starts with the third strategic realignment, the leverage principle. Making small amounts of money slowly requires constant physical presence. Making large amounts quickly requires precision and systems that scale your impact far beyond your personal effort. Scaling that impact requires the fourth strategic realignment, the power of concentration. Most men scatter their attention across a dozen different opportunities. True players ruthlessly ignore distractions to compound their skill in one specific, high-leverage lane. As you ascend, you will hit a psychological block, the make-do logic of the middle class. People tolerate friction and outdated tools, telling themselves they are being smart by saving cash to preserve what they already have. This is overcome by the fifth strategic realignment, capacity over cost. When you look at an investment and say, "That is too expensive," you are framing the object as the problem, rather than acknowledging your own current limitations. Frugality is often a cage. Strategic thinkers don't ask how to get something cheaper. They ask how they must upgrade their own capacity so that elite access and quality tools become their new normal. Preserving capital at the expense of growth costs decades of potential. The people at the top willingly spend money to buy better information and proximity, effectively using capital to compress time. The most dangerous part is the quiet passage of time. You don't destroy your future in one dramatic event, you simply postpone it. This leads to the sixth strategic realignment, the invisible cost of inaction. Most people calculate the risk of moving forward, but they never calculate the price of staying still. Delaying a decision doesn't eliminate risk. It secretly charges massive interest in the form of expired opportunities. To fight this, you must adopt the 7th strategic realignment, strategic conversion. This is the practice of turning everyday consumption into leverage. A meal is no longer just food, it is a connection. A routine expense becomes an entry point into a new room. Mastering this requires the psychological endurance to sit in uncertainty. You will try new strategies and often face silence from the world. You must be able to endure that silence without sprinting back to the safety of old habits. Look at your own life. Where are you carefully calculating the cost of moving forward, while ignoring what staying exactly the same is already costing you? Agency belongs to the men who move before they feel ready. Waiting for permission from your circumstances is the most reliable way.
Subscribe to Drax Ledger for more wealth psychology stories.